Fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren. Miss Jennifer Peaches Gordon. I cut out the "and" because that's just too many words.
I know, and I was just thinking, now that you've cut out Jennifer Ann Gordon, if people did want to find me, they couldn't because they're going to be looking for Jennifer Peaches Gordon. And that is just, that's just a pseudonym that goes nowhere. I had
to do the interview on David, another co-host here, and I had to use his real name. It's the first time in years. It's because, in case they want to look up his book.
Yeah. It's like, we do have careers, Alan.
Yeah. I have to behave, okay?
Yeah. But I don't want Peaches to fall by the wayside because eventually that, demonic burlesque marionette persona is going to, she'll pop out. Yeah, so and then I'll get real famous. Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah. Then you'll be on the road. Anyway. Well, so we're bringing back the devil. We got the devil with us today.
And for once, it's not me.
Yeah, no, it's the real devil, not just the Peaches burlesque psycho killer. We're going to talk about Return of the Devil, and it's the interview with the devil, and this is book 6. Now, the author's with us, and it's Michael Harbron. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Before we get into the why you were hurt so badly as a child and brought you into this world, I just want this whole book series here. Let's talk about the premise of it. So people that don't know who you are, they haven't read it. So what's the basic premise of the Devil books?
The best way I kind of like to describe it is kind of like the Marvel or the DC of horror. So it's the whole original premise is that there is a guy called Joe who grows up in a really religious household and, has to pray every night, like the whole bit. So he grows up to have a bit of a disdain for religion. He writes a book called The Skeptic, which goes on to be, blasted by the Vatican and all the world over. It's like an apocalypse of a book. And then he struggles to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to write next? Over a series of events, the devil appears to him and is like, listen, I want you to tell my side of the story, and also delivers a prophecy to him about the end of the universe that's coming, along with a few other nuggets, which, for those who haven't read, I won't give it too much away because there's kind of like a cliffhanger in the first book. That's the premise. Of the whole story of how it starts.
What led you to write this kind of series? What was the thought in your head to go, this is what I want to write?
Well, that's where my childhood trauma comes in.
Yes, that's where we're
at. You need to grab a box of tissues. Will we be weeping?
Yeah.
No, I mean, people are like, I either love my mother for it or they'll hate her for it. But no, when I was a kid, it was just one of those things where I was just a bit of an odd child. And I remember going into a video store where, this was probably late 80s, like 89. And I was with my mom and I was just looking for a tape to pick out to watch. I was like, I want that one. And it was Fright Night by Tom Holland. And I don't know what it was. Even now I can remember the vampire's face behind the house. And she's like, oh, hell no. Like, that's not happening. I'm like, no, I'll be fine. Just buy me the tape. It's my pocket money. And so she bought me the video and I watched it and I just loved it. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And I don't know what was going through my head as a kid, but I even remember at the time thinking, I think there's references in that story to the devil. And I always thought, oh man, I want to talk to the devil. I want to find out why he sent these people here. And I've had the idea since then, and so my horror, kind of my desire for horror just grew from then.
As a child, did you start telling people that you wanted to talk to the devil? Were you
sent
to?
Yeah. No, yeah, I was really weird. Like, I was doing seances in, I think it was more of an attention grab. You know, I think it was just like that kid that, because I always wanted to perform or do something. And I think it was more like, oh, well, if I talk about the supernatural, everyone in the street comes flocking. And so I remember doing like these little seances and like meditations with candles. And I was definitely like the freak that lived on the block.
I feel like we shared a similar childhood, Michael. I'm loving this.
Perfect. There you
My
go.
movie was Poltergeist, though. That I'm
Yes.
older than you.
Yes, that's my number one movie of all time. Yeah. Yeah, because I watched that one later on.
My mom left the room, I remember, because she was like, you can watch it, but I have to watch it with you. And I was like, okay, like, I'll do anything to watch this movie. And she kept leaving the room because she was scared. And I was like 4 or 5, like, staring at Poltergeist, having my mind completely changed by
Look at that. Separated at birth. Yeah, that's a good movie.
Right. Is that where the body started to turn up? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting, but, so you're into this. So,
Yeah.
you're into the old movie, like the horror movies, and you got these seances going on, but what drew you into the writing world? Like, how did you get confidence, or what was the certain thing that happened that made you think, okay, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to get it out there and have people read them?
So I've written short stories like just forever, like, always tinkered with them, all of that. I got into music a little bit. Like I released a few songs and I was raised in England. And I had like a teeny bopper song type thing. It wasn't anything crazy. There were no videos. It was just kind of like something I did on my own. And so the writing thing has always been there. And I've toyed with this idea in my head for, like 20 years or so. And so I just decided to, about 5 years ago or so, I started putting pen to paper on Devil, on the first book. So here's a funny story. So well, it's not funny, but my dad died.
That's hilarious, Michael.
Super hilarious. He committed
Oh my
suicide.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It gets worse. He committed suicide, and he jumped in front of a train. And I'm a little bit, I know it sounds like I'm coming at it from a more of a cold scenario, but I'm a little bit more pragmatic about life. And, I stopped writing around that time. I thought, okay, it puts you in a funny place. It wasn't like I went into a hole or anything like that, but a friend said to me, oh, hey, why don't you talk to a psychic? And this person, she was in San Diego, and she's like, this person is unreal. She's on the radio, like the whole bit. It's like, oh, okay, like fine. So I did it as kind of like a joke, and she gets on, she's like, okay, take a breath, all the rest of it. She's like, okay, a guy is coming through, and for some reason he's showing me a train track. And he's telling you that I've got chills now.
I just got chills too. I'm like, oh my God.
And then she goes, he's telling me that you need to continue the book when you move to Vegas. And I'm like, A, I don't know, the book, fine. Somebody could have picked that up. B, I'm not moving to Vegas. A year later, I moved to Vegas for something. And it just was insane. And it was locked down. This was in a small town in England. There was no way that anybody, it wasn't in the press. No one would have known about it, let alone a woman from on the other side of the world. And all my social media was locked down, and even still, I didn't post anything about it. So, it was enough for me to be like, okay, all right.
Like, you're meant to write these books.
I'm meant to write these books. And so so that the first 3 in the story, I kind of wrote as one collective book, a few years ago. And that's really what, I've been toying with it for years, and that's what prompted me to really dive into it. So. Yeah.
Wow, I love this. I'm very sorry for your loss, and that's incredibly tragic, but at the same time, what an incredible, you said Marvel and DC earlier, so I immediately went heroes. So this is your origin story.
Yeah.
Fright Night to this.
Yeah.
So when you started writing the first book, did you know during that process that it was actually 3 books, or did you think it was one book that was really needed to be edited down?
It was like War and Peace. So, when I'd done the first 3, it was just too long. And, the first segment of when it was one novel, the first segment of that book was such a character world development that I can imagine people like putting it down like on the 10th chapter. So I split them off into 3 and then went back just and kind of refurbished all of them as singular stories, part of the same world. So, yeah.
It's incredible. I'm always impressed when people can write series like that.
Yeah, I would have said if I hadn't decided to split them off, I wonder if I may have stopped at just that trilogy and then gone on to do something else. But there was just something in it where, because there's a lot of, kind of, sub-characters in there and stuff. And they became, the more I wrote about them, the more I fell in love with them and thought, well, I can do a lot with this character. Technically, even though that was a trilogy, I introduced a spin-off called The Witch. And that timeline slides in between the second and the third book. So when I give people the order of them now, it's different to what they had originally. And it's just developed into this entire thing. So now, my plan is to dedicate my entire writing career to just this universe, and build something like a DC or a Marvel.
Now, your characters, how do you interact with your characters in that? They seem very important to you. And that, are you hearing them? Do you have pictures of what they look like in your mind, or what's your experience when you work with these characters?
Well, Joe, I modeled a lot of myself. Because I grew up in somewhat of a religious, my mom wasn't really that religious, but my family were. It was very much like crosses on the wall. Like, I go to stay at my grandma's, there's a picture of Jesus staring right down at me. I'm like, all right, you're just going straight to sleep tonight. It was, it was kind of like a bit of a pushback with all of that as well, because, there was growing up, I just felt like a lot of guilt. And, he's insecure, he's got a bit of an ego at times, he's ambitious, he's lonely, he's lost, he's loved, all of that. So I modeled him a little bit on myself, but with the other characters coming into play, they're almost like the people that I always wanted in my life, but I never had. Before I write, I imagine the story in my head as if a movie. So I've already got what they look like, what color hair they have, where they live, what their apartment looks like. All of that I play out visually to myself before I start typing.
Do you kind of have a favorite, or have a character or two that you relate to the most?
Joe, yeah, until he ascends and does what he does in like the second, fourth book. But yeah, him especially. And then Lilly really is a character who has kind of been by Joe's side the entire time, and gave him the kickstart he needed to get his second book done. This isn't really a spoiler because it's on all the back of the blurbs, but she's the witch. And they have a bit of a kind of love affair going on. She's almost like, weirdly, she's like the sister or the lover he never had. And those two are my favorite. And that's what I'm doing with her, as this one kind of continues to conclude. Lilly has her own entire set of stories going on. The 7th book is going to be about her, as well as The Witch was. So, yeah, I'd say it's those two.
I think you almost just answered the question I was thinking of, but maybe not. So you have this universe of characters. Joe and Lilly are your favorites. Have you ever had a character that started as a throwaway character that just sort of took on a life of their own and made you as the writer think, oh, they're not a throwaway character at all. Like, maybe they are much more important than I thought they were.
Yeah, actually, I had, so it's funny because with the book before this was an anthology, and it was a series of like 10 short stories, that were connected to the universe, but bridged the gap for the next set of stories that are to come, like The Return. And there was a throwaway character that I did in there, who was it's called Traveling Soldier. And it's about a guy who experiences what's going on, like with the destruction of the planet. And, he was just meant to be a one-off. And I got to like him so much while writing about him. I'm like, oh, he could really lend a lot to Return. And he does, he's definitely, he's definitely kind of like a background character, if you will, but he definitely adds a bit of a nuance. And I can see him going a few places in the future. But yeah, I think that's happened a couple of times with a few of them. they start out small and then they end up something bigger.
Yeah, and sometimes it just takes one really well-written line that makes you go, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
My character just got much cooler than I thought
Yes, it does. It does. And you know what's funny is I know exactly what part of the anthology, the one before this, I know exactly what part it was that where it did that. So yeah, I was like, oh wow, this is great. He's got to stay. And then there's others that I wanted to continue on. There's like a high priestess, if you will, in The Witch, and I loved her. I actually thought of Poltergeist, right? Obviously the movie.
Oh yeah.
We just talked about it. The Tangina. I kind of modeled her off Tangina from Poltergeist.
Oh, now I just got the chills.
Yeah. So that was kind of, so I loved her character, and I thought, oh man, I want this chick to go forever. Sometimes it doesn't always work out that way.
Sometimes characters die.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you kill them.
Sometimes you kill them and then you go, what? I just did that.
I know, but don't you feel slightly empowered?
Yeah. You're not the boss of me, fictional character.
I can do what I want. This is my book, goddammit. Yeah, that's, but do you know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of like I feel like when you kill a character off, it's a little, not relieving, but like, oh yeah, I did that. It's crazy. Anyway, it certainly felt like that. So there's a couple of deaths of characters in this next one.
So what happens to your characters then when they're dead? Or do they just appear? Is that like why it's a relief?
I think maybe it's a bit of maybe deep down I was struggling where to continue with them. Like, oh, where are they going to fit so I can just axe them out? Maybe it's, maybe it's a little easier. But, for all intents and purposes, I mean, again, not without giving too much away, and obviously the current readers will know it, but Joe somewhat goes through a similar process. So, and I brought him back,
I feel like with horror, we have like workarounds. If you kill somebody off and then like 2 books later, you're just like, man, that might have been a mistake. There's always a way to bring them back.
Yeah,
in some way, shape, or form.
You can kind of do what you want. I mean, it's like, I think I had somebody who left me a review going, I don't know, just him talking to the devil, the conversation didn't seem realistic. I'm like, really?
Oh, that didn't
He's talking to the devil and it didn't seem real. Come on, give me a break. So it's kind of, I feel like, yeah, you're right. We can kind of do what we want. And we've seen it in movies, where someone died and magically they're brought back. So, yeah.
And there's always just like a good hallucination. Is your character haunted or are they nuts?
Right.
Like.
Yeah, you can go anywhere you want.
You can go anywhere.
Or just gaslight them. Like, he didn't die.
Oh, that's a good one too. Yeah.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, it was all a dream.
All a dream. That's the easy way out.
That's the easy way out.
Yeah. Someone asked me, they're like, well, where's the ending of this? Like, what's the plan at the end? Well, no, maybe we'll just all wake up. It was a dream. That's not going to happen. But, it's an easy way out.
Is there a point? Do you have, like, when you're writing this, are you trying to get something across to the reader? Is there some meaning behind all of this whole interviewing the devil, or is it just fun?
It's a bit of both. It's definitely not political. I will say that. I've had a few people, kind of like ask me about that side, because there's, the battle of these 2 entities, which is God and the devil. But yeah, it's a bit of both. I think kind of like just humanity in general. I kind of hope that people will come away from the novels and kind of just question their own existence a little bit more, because, from a more theatrical purpose, let me step back a bit. One of the main reasons I wrote this is because I got tired of either reading or seeing the same type of story where the ending was the same, right? So we've all seen the possession movies where it's usually a kid. The kid gets possessed, the priest comes in and saves the day, everyone's fine and dandy at the end. Maybe there's like a little snippet of something where everything isn't fine. But usually it's the same old trope. Everything follows it. And I just kept getting so disappointed. I'm like, well, this isn't the ending I want. I want to find out what happens next. Like, what has God got to say? If somebody was up there and to ask God questions, like, where the hell were you? Like, because apparently we see a lot of the devil. Like, the devil's up here causing all sorts of mayhem. But I don't know, when there's a plane crash, all the rest of it. So I think, it's a bit of an ironic story in the sense that I want people to just have fun, make up their own mind, all the rest of it. But, I've read from a lot of trauma victims as well that grew up in real religious households that said, the book completely helped them get through a hard time. So, or, kind of go back to that trauma and revisit it. So it's just a bit of both.
How do you determine how the voice of the devil is? Like, where does that come from? Are you talking to the Church of Satan, or what goes on?
Well, funny enough, when I was researching I did a research and I interviewed somebody who is a member of the Satanic Temple, and I thought about joining it just for like a short period of time, just to like really get the lowdown. And I didn't want to mess with people in that way. I didn't want them to think, I'm just joining it to like get a rise out of you or to do that type of stuff. And because I didn't think that would be fair. So, I just interviewed and I asked all these questions. I had phone calls, like Zooms, like all over the course of a year's period. And, the guy gave me the whole rundown, and it's kind of like, it was really interesting because, I was like, oh, when do you kill the goat? And it's like, yeah, that's not real, you weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not real. Actually, I know Peter Gilmore, who's the current leader of the Levian Church of Satan. I've known him a long time. They're pretty normal.
They're more normal than
Yes.
the religion I was brought up in. I would say
100%.
that. 100%.
Yeah, people don't know. I mean, I interviewed him for the show 2 years ago, and I know him quite well, and yeah, it's just nothing like what people think it is. It's just so. Anytime you need an insight, let me know.
Oh my gosh! Well, had I known, now I'll join. It's no, it was just it was like that. Do unto yourself as you do unto others as you do to yourself. Right? That's the biggest thing that I took away from it, and that it was just don't be an asshole. And so it was very free thinking. It was kind of like almost like I felt like it was a little hippie-ish bit in 2020, the 2020s. It was.
Well, the biggest thing is they like to celebrate birthdays, that you're alive, things that are alive, because they think you're dead, it's gone, it's over, nothing else. Right. So they don't follow any of that. There is no Christ because there is no devil or Satan, as they. So it's totally different. It's very enlightening, actually. It's very nice. But it's not as fun as the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not as fictional.
Yeah, it's just, it's more exciting watching them throw blood and eating goats and all that stuff, right?
Not for a vegetarian.
No, not for vegetarian. I don't. When you're doing dialogue, how do you come up with it? Like, how does that experience work for you? So you're sitting there and you've got a couple of characters, you've got something going on, and you're creating dialogue between them. Do you sit in a room and talk to yourself, or do you have what's your experience?
I play it all out. The visual side of it for me is really huge. And so I think of the scene in my head, and actually it all comes to me at night when I'm about to sleep. So the way that I doze off is by playing this scene out in my head and the dialogue that I want them to have. And then I wake up in the morning with a really fresh mind, and I just start writing it down. And it's like I've already had the conversation in my head as to what I want to say. And that's really as simple as it is.
So you play it out in the mind. You said the visuals are really important to you. What about the soundtrack? Do you have a playlist for your books? Do you have sound effects playing in your brain?
Yes, I do. God, it's like you're reading my mind. Jeez.
So weirdly, the movie thing, playing a scene over and over again in your head before you go to sleep, is how I go to sleep with my books. That's why I was like, oh my gosh, tell me your soundtrack, Michael.
It's very 80s.
Yes!
Human League, all of that. I don't know why, and it probably comes a lot from Fright Night, because that soundtrack was just perfection. But even when they brought back, what was it, that P. Burns song, Dead or Alive in Stranger Things, all of that, it was that's the soundtrack that plays for me when I'm I thought about doing I don't know if you've thought about this too, but doing a Spotify playlists. So it's like, hey, chapter 1, let this song take you off. So I thought that'd be fun. I haven't done it, but yeah, it's.
Well, get on it. You've got a ton of books out already. You're on book 6.
I know. I write so fast, my editor hates me.
Yeah. Well, where's this going? Do you have an ending with the interviews, or it sounds like you're going to create the whole world. You're going to go, but is there sort of in your mind, a beginning, middle, end? Is there sort of an organization or something going on, that, or is it?
Yeah, there is. There is the I want to say again. I'll say final, but it'll end up being something else. But there's a kind of like a ghoul throughout the books called the Collectors, and it's that Grim Reaper type of figure. They play a really big part in the second part of Return. So this one reintroduces obviously the return of Satan, and the Collectors, which is the name of which would be the 8th book, would somewhat be the end. And then I'll branch out, and it probably will be more of the witch type stories. I've introduced like a vampire into the story, which I felt was like, I'm not sure whether it felt a little odd, but again, I'm writing about the devil and the witch as it is, so it made sense.
Is a vampire a step too far?
What kind of
Fright Night fan are you?
That's why it came all back. Yeah, so I think the ending will come somewhat in that 8th book, which I'm trying to bang out before. I've already written like the first few chapters of it, but that one will probably come out around Halloween, and then I think that will be the ending of the Joe's saga.
Wow, that's a lot to keep organized in your brain.
Well, not if he's living it.
Yeah, that's it. I'm living it. It's like, it's the place I can escape to, if I want to, just like dip out of reality for a second. I find it sometimes hard to communicate it to the readers, because, the timeline's there and everything in which order you should read them. But I get a lot of people just seeing maybe the anthology, because I wrote that in a way that you can read it almost standalone. People are like, I didn't know there was like 4 other books before this. So, it's easier in my head.
Well, what kind of timing are we talking about? Is this modern day writing? Is this happening today, or is this something in the future or in the past?
It's today. Yeah, so it's the present. Yeah, the only difference is with when I did The Witch, that one, the first half of the book was back in Salem. And so, because I wanted to write, I tend to like to blend real life scenario or real life events, I want to say, into the story a little bit without making it too nonfiction. But the events in The Witch in the beginning, like there's, Lilly, for instance, befriends somebody called Bridget Bishop. She was one of the first women to be hanged at trial as a witch in real life back in the Salem trials. So, I tried to like incorporate a little bit of realism in there, but that timeline jumped back and forth a little bit, just because I thought it would be fun.
How do you deal with modern day stuff? Like, do you put like things like COVID or any of that in there, or do you stay away from all that?
No, I completely stay away from it because I think we all lived it, and I think that we all have a little bit of trauma from it. And I don't really want to put anybody back there. I read Holly by Stephen King, and I love King. Don't get me wrong. Shoot hero, all the rest of it. But that book was all centered around COVID. And to be honest, I found it a little difficult to read just because it kept like snapping back at me. And I was like, I don't want to relive this. So, and you could tell he was throwing his personal opinion in there as well, which we do. It's fine, which Jennifer, I'm sure you do too. But it's
I definitely do. It's like,
Right, of course. We all, Alan, you as well. We all do. But it's, I just don't want to. Yeah, it's almost like it. I don't know.
Well, Jennifer's books are called Personal Opinion, Book 1.
Hey. This is why I started writing personal essays that are separate from my books, because people kept reading my books going, that's clearly you. I'm like, it's not clearly me. That is a corpse. He just happens to be talking. I am a human person.
Yeah. And you don't really have to bring in this, what's going on. But you want people to have the feel of the time period. That's all.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I don't know if anybody knows, I mean, it's like, there's little nuggets and Easter eggs throughout every book. Unless you're a real aficionado of the Salem trials, I don't know that anybody that read The Witch understood, like even the judge that threw her in jail, he was a real judge from that time. It's, I don't know that anybody would know, and because I certainly don't broadcast it. I don't know that anybody would know unless they're not like a huge geek on that stuff. So it's mainly just for fun.
Well, you always get a few of those, right? I mean, I don't know. Stuff like that.
Googling everything as they're reading it.
Yeah, checking everything so they can say, did you know that didn't happen here?
Oh, I'm waiting for it. Yeah, I'm waiting for it. Yeah. I'm like, it's fine. I get that a lot because I write so fast that, I've had like a couple of reviews where people are like, oh man, the grammar on this one. I'm like, give me a break. I'm giving you guys like $4 a year. But I hear them. So, I've dialed up the editing process and I've, started pacing them out a little bit more. The return is going to be the last one that I'm really up against it. Because I'm even playing with it now and I'm meant to submit the final manuscript like tomorrow. So.
Well, there's a point too, right? I mean, that you can write for the reader, but there has to be a certain level where you're not writing for the reader, like you're writing for yourself too, right? There has to be a line there.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, it's also minimal. I mean, it's, I think everybody, if they're, even King isn't immune to inconsistencies or mistakes and stuff like that. And I figure if a few people find them, they, when you're into something, you're forgiving of it. So it's really, it's really minute. But yeah.
Stephen King. So is he a horror writer? Down. I'll look him up.
Have you heard of him? He's kind of an up and comer.
Up and comer. Yeah. I've got the name down. I'll do a search.
Yeah.
It's Stephen with a V.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Can't seem to find him. I don't know what. Boy, he must be. So listen, do you like to interact with readers? Do you think about the reviews and all that stuff? Do you have? Yeah. So do you have social media? Do you have website? How do you like them to interact with you?
Most interact with me on Instagram. So it's just my name, just Michael Harbron. But I love it. And I take reviews really seriously. I mean, it's like, when I released the first book, I was, I thought, man, if I get a 1-star average rating on this book, and I'm taking the reviews to change what happens in book 2. I take that stuff really seriously, and everyone's feedback, good or bad, I look at it. I take it into account. But I have like a little core group that reach out and just message me and stuff. It's cool.
Well, I used to take reviews real serious, but then I've sort of toned down a little bit. You know what I mean?
You have to for your sanity.
I mean, it can get pretty personal. It can get pretty, it can get difficult after a while, and then plus, I don't know. But everyone's different.
No, you're right. You're right. It does get, it's people they don't hold back with their feelings on stuff. Joe got attacked a lot in my first book for being a egomaniac. I'm like, guys, he's not real.
Yeah. He's a character. Get over it. Yeah, I know. It's kind of strange how that goes, but anyway, and now do you have a website? Where do people find your website? What is it?
It's just michaelharbron.com.
Perfect. Now we're going to have that. We're going to have your books. We're going to have everything up so people can find you and the books real easily, so there you go.
Guys.
Yeah, we appreciate you being on the show.
Oh my God, this was so much fun.
Return of the Devil. And we're not talking about peaches here. But,
yeah, because I didn't go anywhere. I'm just right here.
Michael Harbron. So thank you for being here.
Oh, you guys, it was so much fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a production of the House of Mystery Radio Show. To find out more about our show, guests, or hosts, go to our website at houseofmysteryradio.com.